Rule number one, you must never talk of Fight Club.
I'm gonna make him an offer he can't refuse.
I'm not even supposed to be here today! Oh, fuck you!
Come on, you want me to drive? You're supposed to be suicidal. Remember, I'll anybody to drive. Get in the car. Fucking shit! Fuck me in the fucking ass! Fuck you, you fucking stupid cunt!
Hey everyone, it's Don G. Corleone here, and I am here with a brand new movie review, and this movie review is going to be for episode 2 of David Fincher month, and we'll be reviewing what I easily think is David Fincher's best movie he has directed, Fight Club, from 1999. So what is the plot of Fight Club? Well, a nameless first-person narrator, played by Edward Norton, attends support groups in an attempt to subdue his emotional state and relieve his insomniac state. When he meets Marla, another fake attending his support groups, his life seems to become a little more bearable. However, when he associates himself with Tyler, he gets dragged into this underground fight club and soap-making scheme. Together, the two men spiral out of control and engage in competitive rivalry for love and power. Yeah, so, this is based off Paula Palahniuk's novel, and they got optioned by Fox 2000 Pictures, producer Laura Zitskin, who hired Jim Mullis to write the film adaptation. When it came to directing the film, Fincher was selected for the director because of his enthusiasm for the story. He developed the script with Ullis and sought screenwriting advice from the cast and artists in the film industry. When it came to filming the movie, they filmed the movie in Los Angeles from July to December 1998, and they compared the movie to stuff like Rebel Without a Cause from 1955 and The Graduate from 1967. It's pretty much a theme of conflict with Generation X and the value of advertising. Studio executives of Fox, though, they were not liking the film, and they restructured Fincher's marketing campaign to try to reduce anticipated losses. It's typical, Fox just seemed to really love fucking with David Fincher. Alien 3, and this. No, they didn't fuck with this movie, they fucked with the advertising. Fight Club premiered once the movie was shot and completed and marketed, Fox's way, at the Venice International Film Festival on September 10th, 1999. It was released in the United States on October 15th, 1999, by Fox. The movie, when it came out, it got polarized reactions from critics, and at the box office, it did not meet studio expectations. It's often known for being one of the most controversial films of the 1990s, but, however, Fight Club would later find success on home video and with audiences. So the movie became a cult classic and media revisited the film. And then 10 years later, the New York Times would dub it the most defining cult movie of our generation. Now as for my reaction, well, yeah, I already said it. Fight Club is my favorite film from David Fincher, and it's my second favorite film of 1999, behind The Matrix. To me, this movie really makes David Fincher one of the best directors, easily. Seven technically started to put him on the really good path and set him up for future success. This movie, to me, solidified that path was permanent. I liked every single actor, the story was great, and it had some good plot twists, and I was engaged throughout. I was never bored of the movie. Some very interesting themes get explored, like there's consumerism, there's class warfare, there's multiple personality disorder, there's male bonding, there's terrorism and anarchy. So it's not, without being all judgy and stuff. David Fincher's direction is totally spot on. He makes the perfect cinematography, the pacing, the editing with this movie. They captured the twists very perfectly, and Edward Norton and Brad Pitt in this movie, they're perfectly cast as the two lead characters. They deliver the movie in terrific spades. Helen Bonham Carter, the third star of the film, definitely also gives a really great performance in this film, as well as Marla. So, how does Fight Club begin? Well, our protagonist that Edward Norton plays, he doesn't have a name. He's just called the unnamed narrator. There's no name for this character. They never mention his name. He's just known as our unnamed lead narrator. He struggles with insomnia and dissatisfaction with his job and lifestyle. He finds less in support groups, though, and his insomnia worsens, and he discovers the expressions of emotional vulnerability help him sleep, and it leads him to join groups for people taking emotionally distressing problems, despite his expression being a little fraudulent. And his efforts get forward, though, when an imposter named Marla, played by Helen Bonham Carter, joins the same groups. And the narrator cannot present his fabricated struggles as genuine, or his attention from her presence as an imposter, and his sleeplessness ends up returning. Eventually, he arranges for him and Marla to attend different sessions to regain so he can sleep again, and under the circumstances to contest information, which she reluctantly agrees to do that, and pretty much you know how the film is going to kick off from there. My main interest for the film, it doesn't really present characters to us to think about. It presents actions for us to think about. And in a way, right here, from what the characters bring us. Right here. And despite the risky cutting-edge nature of the film, David Fincher has a pretty huge budget for this, and it really shows. The camera effects, the whole production design are very amazing, which is often a thing in all of his films. It has this raw energy that really grips the viewer, especially grips me too. It's this crazy and fun ride. You know what you're getting into as soon as the film starts. And the plot twists and turns continually from beginning to end, and they're very well done. And the movie does kind of start off on this kind of small scale, but it becomes outrageous and explosive at the film's finale, and eventually also becomes pretty outrageous once you get to the Fight Club. There's very clever twists at the end. There's plenty of sick humor too. There's this very hilarious scene involving this fat called the lip suction fats, or even when Edward Norton's character ends up kind of quitting his job and blackmailing his boss by beating himself up, or he listens to Brad Pitt on Bum's car pretty much doing it upstairs and often hearing it multiple times. And with a film like this, the acting is brilliant, and it definitely is frequently brilliant. Edward Norton really excels well as a narrator of the story. He gets caught up in all this madness, this faceted, psychologically focused performance. Brad Pitt, he fits the bill very well for all on this performance, and this was his second collaboration with David Fincher after Seven, 4 years before this came out. Back in 1999, which Seven came out in 1995. And the other actors like Meatloaf and Jared Leto, they're also very good as well. The violence in this film, it's definitely very brutal and unglamorized. In the Fight Club, the heads get knocked hard against concrete. Acid gets poured over flesh on Edward Norton's hand in one bit by Brad Pitt near the end of the film. Teeth get knocked out. When Edward Norton's brushing his teeth, a tooth falls out. Noses get split open. It is a pretty hard film to watch. You could kind of see why. It was known for being one of the most controversial films, of the 90s. It's still fascinating, too. It's very clever. It's highly suspenseful. So after the first bit where the narrator and Helen Bonham Carter's character met, he's on a return flight from work, and the narrator meets Brad Pitt's character, Tyler Durden, a soap salesman. And after an explosion destroys the narrator's apartment, he has to move to Tyler's rotting away house. They then become friends and start this underground fight club at a bar basement where we meet Fight Club, and we get the iconic quote, "Rule number 1, you must never talk of Fight Club, or all the rules of the club," and stuff. And Tyler then even saves Marla from an overdose, and a sexual relationship happens between them that the narrator frequently hear from upstairs. And the narrator remains very cold towards Marla. Helen Bonham Carter is very terrific in this whole movie. It's although to be fair, the star power goes to the combination of Ed Norton and Brad Pitt's characters. They're outstanding. And when it comes to my favorite Ed Norton performances, I'd say this would probably have to be number 1. This might have to be my number 1 favorite Ed Norton performance. The thing is, though, you're wondering, why did this movie bomb at the box office when it came out if it's so great? Well, a lot of great stuff bombs at the box office, but one of the biggest factors, Fox didn't like Fincher's marketing campaign, so they gave it a mismatched campaign. It had made it seem like the movie was just about street boxing, and not this emotional ride through this man's psyche as he takes his path towards rebellion. As a result, some that did go see the film in the theaters felt disappointed at first. And it didn't really reach success till it hit DVD and VHS. So that's kind of a sad thing about that. But thankfully, though, it got better recognition after that. Like all great films, like Fight Club doesn't seek to leave its audience members with the stated lesson for them to absorb. Like there's no text card at the end telling you what you should think or the terrible actions you witness. Like the movie ends with this shot renowned for how choreographed, hauntingly scored, and epically shot the whole film is. It ties a perfect bow around the whole 2 hours, 139 minutes this movie has. It creates an image, and the power is immense. It leads to completely opposing, depending on the type of person you'd ask. And the main storyline in Fight Club is pretty much the process of spiritual awakening. It's pretty much caused by mental suffering the unnamed protagonist goes through. The suffering is less consequence and identification with the ego, identification with the things the viewer would own, identification with the roles we all play in society. And there's often big mistakes, like the protagonist is making all of those big mistakes. Like nobody knows the reason for his suffering, not even the doctor knows the reason for his suffering. And the narrator's mind creates this hallucination, Tyler Durden. Tyler Durden's not a real person. He's made up. This self-healing process. Hallucinations are this perfect little protection mechanism of the human mind, and the mental and physical pain that becomes more than the person would typically be able to stand. So, after meeting Tyler Durden, and after a few more scenes in the Fight Club, and more scenes of this unnamed narrator spending more time at Tyler Durden's place. We see that the narrator has this unhappy job throughout the film. His boss is a prick. The kind of way, the boss even one time sees a report of Fight Club and even sees blood on the unnamed narrator's shirt and tells him to go home and not come back to work until he has clean clothes. And eventually, the narrator quits his job, blackmails his boss for funds, and then even grows the Fight Club and gets new members, especially his cancer support group friend Bob. Then Tyler morphs the club into Project Mayhem, which commits vandalism to disrupt social order, but the narrator is sidelined by this so he confronts Tyler, and Tyler admits he orchestrated the explosion in the narrator's apartment, but then he goes missing, so unfortunately Bob is killed by the police during one mission, and then the narrator goes looking for Tyler. And then Tyler discovers the project's nationwide reach, and why many people in Marla call him Tyler Durden. He realizes he and Tyler, in this big twist, Tyler Durden was not real. He was never a person. At all. He was a split personality of the narrator himself. And with the job quitting scene is also a pretty funny moment because it kind of goes is the unnamed narrator starts kind of beating himself up to kind of blackmail his boss, and the job quitting scene here, that happened. This scene happens in American Beauty 2, another film from 1999, except unlike American Beauty, which does it in the dumbest way possible, because of American Beauty, the guy was just clearly just trying to throw away his life just so he could be a creeper. This scene here, it's done more reasonably well, and it's better written here. Because in Fight Club, this boss is a prick. This boss is quite a prick, as we see in the scenes he's in. And so you actually can reason. You honestly can definitely see why the unnamed narrator clearly does not like the job he's in. The movie doesn't really live on the edge, but it goes beyond the edge. It doesn't bore on the bizarre, and adventurers head on to the bizarre, refuses to return. Like the essence of Fight Club, it lies in the theme, in the masochistic theme. It shows us some of anarchy's beauty, the symmetry of insanity, It tells us to basically let go, reject consumerism, pull ourselves from brand consciousness without being too preachy like a lot of films today. If a movie like this was made today, they'd probably be very preachy with the message, but they don't. Like, it actually does this very well. It really asks us to really feel more alive. And as soon as the narrator meets Tyler Durden, this split personality of him, he draws out of him, and it's deeply suppressing himself and surfaces with very great results. And director really does well in explaining how the messages are sent to the viewer throughout many segments of the movie, and it's definitely not something new. Like, it's known to have been done quite a few times, and it actually works here. Some things are actually pretty well shot and pretty disturbing. And the film, when watched at the end of the understanding, it provides this interesting perspective of the things that really affect us all. The ending is really intriguing, and also because it's contradictory, and ends up really turning out the way like some people would think it wouldn't have. And that's exactly what really makes the movie interesting here. To wrap it all in a way, to wrap up what you just witnessed, to wrap up this whole story. The whole thing, the primordial man is what wins. It's the fact that the story kind of at times suggests it's not so much like that, and it's before the end that change happens, but it's irrelevant in the end. The subconscious wins in the end, regardless of everything the viewer goes through when they watch the film. You might think as soon as around the beginning of the film, at first it seems like it's going to be a little strange, but how it unravels, it's very superb and it's very interesting. Everything does start to come back to you. Everything does start to finally make sense. And even the little things at the beginning, they all eventually make sense because of how mind-blowing the movie is. How very well shot the movie is. With the overall message is even very powerful and very conveyed in a very fantastic way. Here, now we get on with how Fight Club ends. So, the unnamed narrator learns that Project Mayhem actually is going to erase debit records by blowing up the headquarters of credit card companies. A narrator tries to warn Marla, but is unsuccessful in doing so he ends up going to the police, but he finds out some of the police are Project Mayhem members too, so he tries to disarm the explosives, but Tyler Durden attacks him. The narrator shoots himself in the mouth, and it kills Tyler Durden. Then Marla arrives, and then she and the narrator reconsole, they hold hands, and the targeted buildings collapse. Right there. It seems like a bit of a confusing ending, in kind of a way. Like, maybe the narrator has, by killing Tyler Durden, maybe the narrator has died, and maybe he's finally maybe he's kind of envisioning Marla coming up to him. In a way, as Project Mayhem is still happening, it's kind of, maybe the narrator is dead, but this is likely just his spirit witnessing Project Mayhem still happen. So Project Mayhem still happened, but the narrator guy will technically have a better life. He's kind of like, regardless if maybe he's alive or maybe he's dead. Maybe it's up for the viewer to decide what happened, if he died or survived. Because the narrator guy did kind of shoot himself in the mouth, and Tyler Durden is not a real person, he's a split personality. Now, would I have any bad qualities for Fight Club? In a way? I would have to say, no, not movie-wise, I don't. Some people might find it a little confusing at first, but I think Fight Club might have to be a film that is kind of required to be rewatched quite a few times to kind of understand it better. Like, at first I didn't understand the movie much the first time I watched it, but after rewatching, kind of analyzing it a little more, I understand it a little better, so. But now I think Fight Club is a bit of a flawless masterpiece. If there was a bad quality, Fox's version of marketing. How Fox handled the marketing was misleading, and Fox was kind of very stupid to disapprove of David's marketing idea, because it made people think it was an actual fight movie. In a way, it's not really that. Yeah, there's an actual fight club in the film, but that's not the main point of the movie. Hell, honestly, Fox was just kind of stupid partners with David Fincher to begin with, because when he was assigned what was supposed to be his directorial debut, he clearly had a plan for it. But the reason why we had the shitty version of that movie we had today was because Fox kept fucking with every decent idea for the film he tried to give it. And he disowned it, so to me, That's why I don't count that certain directional debut as part of his filmography, because he disowned that movie. He prefers to pretend he never made it. Even he hates it. So it doesn't count for his filmography. His real directional debut is Seven. But other than that, though, I don't have much else. Because I think Fight Club is another David Fincher movie that's flawless and worth buying and adding to collection of David Fincher films you easily own. So in the end, Fight Club, yep, worth buying and adding for your collection of David Fincher masterpieces, because this is easily his magnum opus, what really makes him such a great director with many great films. Anyways, that's it for my review of Fight Club, and for how you rank Fight Club, here's how I'm going to rank this movie. So overall, if you want to see David Fincher's magnum opus, then I would so recommend watching and buying Fight Club for your David Fincher shelf, no doubt, and if you're wondering how I'm going to rank Fight Club, I'm going to give Fight Club a damn 10 out of 10. Alright, there we go, guys. That wraps up my review for Fight Club. Now you're wondering, what is going to be the next David Fincher review? Well, I easily found it, so I'm just getting it out right now. We're going to be, next David Fincher episode, we're going to be looking at the film that kickstarted 2010, the 2010s decade. And it was not a crime thriller movie, or a mystery thriller movie. It was a different genre. He directed one of the few that was a different genre. That is, of course, going to be for How the Website Facebook Formed, the movie about one of the most hated people of all time, The Social Network. This will be tonight's rewatch. So, yeah, can't wait to revisit this. And I think this might be easier, yeah, because it's a little shorter than Fight Club, so this might be, yeah. Now I want to know in the comments down below what you thought of Fight Club, whether you love this movie or whether you think this film was overhyped. And until then, that'll be it for this review. Thank you all for watching. If you like this, want to see more, and don't forget to like, subscribe to Don G. Corleone.